Before we begin, we want to acknowledge that some stories and discussions in this episode of Radiant Resilience may touch on sensitive and potentially triggering topics. These may include themes of infertility and failed IVF, miscarriage, medical gaslighting and patient dismissal, menstrual trauma and chronic pelvic pain, financial burden and lack of fertility insurance, divorce and relational shifts during fertility struggles, and surgical trauma. Our goal is to share real life experiences in a respectful and empathetic manner, offering insights into the complexities of the human spirit and the journey towards resilience. However, we understand that some content might be difficult for listeners. We encourage you to prioritize your well being and discretion when deciding to listen. Please remember this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice or support. If you find yourself needing assistance, we urge you to seek help from qualified professionals or trusted support systems. Your mental and emotional health is important to us. Thank you for your courage and for joining us in a space of understanding and compassion. Welcome back, everyone, to Radiant Resilience. I'm so excited today. I have a friend with me today named Tara Harding. Welcome, my friend. I'm so excited to have you here. We've been trying to set this interview up for months, and both our schedules have just been a challenge.
Yes.
So I'm very excited to finally have you on.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you introduce yourself. I'm going to change it up a little bit. Usually I do the intros, but tell us, Tara, who you are, what you do, all the things, and then we will go into your story.
Yeah. So I am Dr. Tara Harding. I feel like I need to throw out formerly known as Tara Bradner because when I started in the fertility space, I was married, which is part of my journey and story I'll share, but remarried now. So formerly known as
Yes.
as Tara Bradner. But yeah, so I am a doctorate nurse practitioner. I started out as a fertility coach back in 2020 when the first was a thing, and I grew into my own medical practice. Actually, I started in my basement in rural North Dakota as I was working rural healthcare at the time.
You were
And
in
life
healthcare prior.
Yes, in healthcare. And I saw all these fertility coaches coming to fruition as I came out of my own fertility journey. So I went through my own fertility journey by myself, super isolating. Believe you would never know this to this day, but I actually did not share with anybody that I was going through infertility. Like you wouldn't, if you know me now, you'd be like, what? Like I was dead silent when I was going through all of our IUIs. I didn't even tell my staff of 6 people at the time that I was going through it. I eventually shared in the beginning that I was going through infertility because I had to. So I did 24-hour call shifts that covered a hospital, ER, nursing home, and I had to share with them because I needed off to go have a follicle scan. I was like, no, I have a medical appointment. And they're like, what kind of medical appointments do you keep having? Because you're gone all the time. Yeah. I got gaslit into sharing my journey. And so I was like, here's the deal. I'm going through infertility. It's very timed, etc. So
How
when
long
I
ago was
shared,
that?
that would have been in 2016 is when my first journey
Okay.
started. So it's been a hot second. After going through 3 IUIs at a clinic that I just was not satisfied with, we actually took a break and I switched clinics and moved actually my care down to Colorado. And that was the first, I had unexplained infertility, which is a huge part of my platform now, where I say unexplained infertility is garbage. It is. It's a complete garbage diagnosis. You should never be satisfied with that diagnosis. You should always be searching and grow your healthcare team to figure out why. There's always a why. I see it in my current practice, which we'll get to. But
And I
I just was
mean,
like,
that's been our diagnosis. I know you
yeah,
know that, and a lot of my
yeah,
listeners know that. And when I tell people that, they're just baffled. They're like,
yep,
"What?
yep.
That's a thing?" And who says that to any other health issue? Like it's unexplained. Like it's crazy to me. And so I love that you take that stance because obviously, especially I'm speaking from my own personal experience. Like I have been 9 years now trying to get pregnant. I haven't been preventing in that entire time. I've done IVF and failed. Like, obviously, is
something.
wrong.
Exactly. Exactly. And I can vouch for that. I'm a healthcare provider. I get to diagnose pretty much anything and everything. Nothing else is, sorry, not sure. We're just going to whip spaghetti at the wall and see what happens with this. Like, I don't get to do that with anybody else. So it's just not okay. Because the other part of this, as you know, all too well, is this is money out of our pockets. So when you're giving me unexplained, we're just going to whip some stuff at you, see if it works. You're not only messing with emotions, mental health, you're messing with finances of couples too. So I just think it's complete garbage. And to summarize my part one, we're going to call it Tara's part one fertility journey, which started in about 2016. I had a miscarriage, again, unexplained. IUIs, oh, everything looks perfect. This is going to be the month that happens. And nothing was happening. I went to a new clinic after hitting pause, and that was the first time someone was like, it could be endometriosis. We're just going to act as if it is and switch up your protocol. And so I did 2 months of Depo-Lupron before the transfer. And based on the outcome of embryos, he had thought too was likely endometriosis, but it got foo-fooed and like nothing more came from it.
Can I ask you,
Um,
what were your periods like
yeah.
when you were younger? Because that's something I have had painful periods my entire life since the day it
Yeah.
started. And when I was in high school, I was on the floor in so much pain. I'd passed out, I vomited, all that stuff.
Yes.
And so that's not normal. And yet,
No.
again, so I've often wondered, I've still not been fully diagnosed with endometriosis, but
I'll
I
diagnose you
wondered,
right
like,
now. You have
that's not
endometriosis.
normal.
No, the other part of the mountain that I stand on and yell about as personally is endometriosis. And there was a Harvard study done that said nearly 100% of teen girls who went home or would have went home from school activities due to periods had endometriosis. So right then and there, and I use that in my current practice, my current clinic practice focuses so much on this topic. And we see women, it is so obvious. If you ask, tell me about your periods, how old were you when they started? What did those look like? If you could have missed school activities, if your guardian would have allowed you to, would you have? And it's an easy open entry into tell me about periods. So ironically, mine were painful. Yes, they were painful. And I didn't really remember much about them. And my mom was like, oh, you didn't complain too much, but I also put myself on birth control due to them at age
Same.
17. I was like, little did you know, because a lot of families didn't talk about periods and they still don't talk about periods. And we really need to change that because it's an open, whether it's PCOS, thyroid conditions, endometriosis, adenomyosis, that we can tell at a young age and really change the chorus for a female growing up and her life and her fertility from that early age by knowing those basic questions. The other one is constipation. Were you the little girl with constipation or tummy issues? It's endometriosis until proven otherwise. So those are really easy, yeah, questions that we need to be asking as healthcare providers more and talking about more. And it really can direct someone's fertility. I send young women for surgery for excision surgery for endo all the time because I want to change their fertility life. I don't want them to go through what you and I have had to go through and the hell we've had to endure just to try to get an answer for our unexplained infertility. I want it to look different for them. And yes, they got to keep on the period conversation and inside I still had unexplained infertility until I end up, and I'll share about getting to my son, but I had a C-section and my periods changed horrendously after that C-section, and I was gaslit by my healthcare provider. I couldn't walk. My first period postpartum, which was 12 months later, I had to sit in a vehicle on Christmas Day and thank God packed I had my leftover oxycodone from my C-section. I had some left, and I had to wait till that oxy kicked in because I literally from pelvis down to toes had such excruciating pain. I couldn't even walk. The amount of blood I lost should have been like in the ER. Like it was it was running. We're gonna get graphic out of me in clots and like down my leg. It was just insane. And I was told, "Oh, this happens to some. It's normal." Periods after that had me in bed. I was sick, physically sick, head to toe. They were heavier. There was huge clots in them. It drastically changed. I now know that's adenomyosis. Again, a word I never was introduced to until starting my own business and meeting and working with some of the top endometriosis specialists in the world and learning more about this. Red flag. So I always tell women too, if your cycles changed after, it could have been the first, second, third, or seventh child. If they ever change, it is such a red flag
Mm.
inside the endometriosis and adenomyosis as well. And it doesn't, just because you didn't have infertility does not exclude you from those two diseases as well. It's a big misconception that I never had troubles getting pregnant. Congratulations, but that doesn't matter. Like when it comes to
Yeah.
this, good for you, happy for you. Deep down, I'm jealous, but that doesn't matter. That's one, infertility is one symptom of those two diseases. So to raise awareness on that. But I did our embryo transfer, had prepped with Depo-Lupron, transferred two genetically normal embryos, the only two I had, and only one attached. So it's a red flag there for me too. Granted, the quality wasn't as great, but really, okay. So it's a red flag for me as well.
But
Ended
you
up
only got
having
two embryos?
two embryos was a red flag for me. He said I would have stemmed you different. Looking back, it's probably your eggs were a little tough, probably endometriosis causing that. And so there was just some red flags. And we never obviously regrouped with him. I ended up getting pregnant and fast forward, but divorced. And he retired. So I didn't go back down that road. But another red flag to my journey was at 32 weeks, I started bleeding. And I woke up one morning, it was the week of Thanksgiving, and I had just gushes of blood. And I lived 2 hours from my OBGYN. So I
Mm.
actually ended up being life flighted in a helicopter.
Oh, wow.
That was a journey. Looking back and knowing what I know now, that's a risk for adenomyosis, and endo have those associated placenta issues are associated with those two diseases as well. Again, nope, never could find the cause, not sure, probably was something the placenta. Thank God it resolved. I did have to live away from home for over 4 weeks, though. I couldn't go back to work. I got pulled from work. So my life got disrupted in that moment, I should say, as well. And I, again, had no answers. There was like never an answer to why that happened.
So frustrating.
So frustrating. And I did have a C-section as well, not planned. I tried on my own too. Looking back, comes with endo and endo too sometimes. So there were so many red flags, but then we fast forward to my recovery journey. So recovering from the C-section was also one of the most awful things I've ever endured. I felt physically sick head to toe. I had so much pain, and I was like, why do women seriously choose this? This is a choice? I am miserable. Again, nope, this is normal. Food, gaslit. Yeah, so this just happens to some people. Again, I was like, seriously? This is just how it is? Here's my adenome and endo. So I fast forward and I began starting a nonprofit actually. So I have the only, Everlasting Hope is the only infertility nonprofit in North Dakota, South Dakota. We provide grants and we provide counselor and care packages and all the advocacy. We're currently in legislation session here, fighting for access to infertility benefits for
Amazing.
preservation and infertility diagnoses in general. I've been doing that. I'm on 7 years of doing that at the time of this recording. And so we're getting closer every year. But I started with just that. And because I was like, I was holding my son at 6 weeks. What did I just go through? Like, I had no insurance coverage. This isn't,
Yeah.
what did I just go through? And so I started with that. And then it transitioned about a year and a half later into the coaching business. About 6 to 9 months later is when I started the actual medical business, where I started doing telemedicine out of the basement. And I've served North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and was able to help women and couples with infertility. It grew into women's health concerns in general because I started going down a lot of different paths, like root cause, like what is causing some of these diseases, and how can I think Eastern and Western when I'm treating women. And so it started on a journey to that, which eventually my part two of my fertility journey, which I'm currently in, I got divorced in between all of that. Hate to even say it out loud, but the 2020 really pivoted my career journey as well and really had me reflecting on what I'm passionate about, Do I matter to my current employer? Which I found out I feel like I never was appreciated at that position. And it was in my hometown. And so to this day, I still have a lot of questions about how do you just, yeah, like I had a big pivot. We'll call you when we need you. We're going to drop your hours to help out. What? Like I just asked to go part-time. And I did have my own business at the time, whatever, whole nother story for another day. But my career change, my marriage, all within 6 months, I had a career
Wow.
change and lost my marriage. And I ended up doing what I call the year of Terra, and I just took care of myself, regrouped, grew my business. I did some locum work as a healthcare provider. I went on lots of vacations, and I really worked on me and
Mm.
what is my calling in life, and what am I supposed to be doing with my time here, with my gifts that I have. How am I supposed to be helping people? And when I started doing that, it just grew into again my telemedicine business. I had a friend that was like, "Can you start coming and doing some in-person hours a few days or a few hours a week here in Bismarck, North Dakota?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's a great idea because I can't do pap smears virtually." And I have women that really want me to be their primary caretaker and they want to see me for everything. And I can do that, just not via telemedicine. So it grew to me doing traveling 120 miles one way. I ended up eventually within the year of Tara, at the end of the 1 year, I met my now current husband. And we, through all this, obviously ended up getting married. And through all of this, met an excision endometriosis expert and really learning about endometriosis, adenomyosis. Had to change healthcare providers, but it eventually led to me getting excision surgery in June of 2024. And I found out the most devastating, life-changing information ever that here this entire time of unexplained infertility,
Which
I in
is how
fact
many
had,
you said 2016 to
yeah,
2024, basically,
yes,
right?
yes. Not 2 times was it uttered out of somebody's mouth during that time that I might maybe have that. Didn't know what do I do with that information. Birth control. Birth control is the only thing they'd fling at you,
Yeah.
which if someone ever said that to me, I would ram it so far down their throat. Like I would just be like, don't you ever talk to me again. If that's your only option, women, we have to start saying no to that. That is not going to heal, fix, resolve things. It's an option for temporary symptom control. That is not the answer or the solution to the root cause issue. And I interviewed this doctor named Dr. Adam Duke because my pelvic floor physical therapist used to live in Idaho, worked in Idaho, had met him, and it was Endometriosis Awareness Month. And I was like, hey, I need some content. And so, a random Sunday, fun fact, if you go to my YouTube channel and you watch the video, it's awful. I'm wearing like glasses. I'm in my now husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. I'm at his apartment, so it's blurred the background. I was in a Sunday comfies, like not prepared for this at all. It is blown up on YouTube. He is serving patients from Dubai because of that video.
Wow.
It took off, like it's crazy how it took off, but it is seriously the best hour with so much information for women in general on like what's acceptable and not acceptable in women's healthcare. We later did another one on adenomyosis, which is amazing. Listen to the whole thing because again, he goes on this route of conversation that we need to have about unacceptable healthcare and for women and how we need to start as women putting our foot down and not accepting this type of care anymore. So really
Yeah.
good episodes, but it took off. And after that, I said, hey, can I talk to you for a few minutes? Like, I have some concerns. And he immediately was like, you have endo, likely
Mm.
adeno too. I had to
Can
change
you
healthcare.
take a moment and just talk about? I know a lot of people have heard of endometriosis.
Yes.
Not many people have heard of adenomyosis. And same with
Yes.
me. I'm the same as you. Like, I didn't learn about it until I got thrown into the infertility world. And I will throw that term out there every once in a while. And people are like, what is that?
Yeah.
So go ahead and
Yep.
talk about that
Yeah.
and what it is for people listening who don't know.
Yes. Endometriosis is lesions of abnormal cell growth or development. They are inflammatory. They produce their own estrogen. Adenomyosis is where those lesions are contained to the inside lining of the uterus. So your uterus is a muscle. Those lesions are contained inside that muscle or inside the uterus. Endometriosis is anywhere outside of the uterus. So it's not contained just to our pelvis, bowel, bladder, kidneys, lungs, retina, like all over the body. It can be anywhere. So a lot of symptoms that are chronically debilitating for women are due to those inflammatory lesions. I also want to state it does not matter your staging or how many lesions you have. I have seen with my own eye, I've had hundreds of patients go into this procedure. And in fact, I'm going to use the story of when I had mine. I had surgery first in the day. Two of my actual patients were right after me. We traveled to Idaho. One of them was on the airplane with me. I've shared pictures and she allowed me to share her story too. She had stage 1 and she was sick daily. That girl had chronic pain, chronic bowel issues, fatigue, headaches, autoimmune disorders. She felt better 2 days post-op than she did going into surgery.
Mhm.
Stage 1. I had stage 4 disaster, which I'll talk about, and I felt great day to day. My symptoms were infertility and awful, crazy, wild periods. So, adenomyosis is typically the large clots, heavy, wonky, wild periods, and miscarriage is more so associated with that. Endo is typically, again, can be period related as well, infertility related. That's the infertility piece, usually is that. But you'll see a lot of the chronic pain, chronic low back pain, women
Mm.
who go to PT, OT, Kairos and can never fully resolve the issue, red flag endometriosis. Almost every time that chronic pain piece where they cannot nip, oh, it was a sports injury, it was a car accident. Yes, there's those things, but most of the time, endometriosis is to blame for that. GI issues, constipation, fatigue, migraines, pain with intercourse, pain that radiates to your pelvis, your back, your legs, your hip, your butthole, that is endometriosis. So that's usually cyclical, but can be outside of your cycle as well. Migraines, you name it, you got to rule out endometriosis and or adenomyosis being part of it. Can you have both? Yes. Can you have just one of them? Yes. So it really can look different.
What is the best way to get adenomyosis diagnosed? Because that's my understanding is that is it the only way to do that surgery or? Hi, friend, and welcome to this episode of Radiant Resilience. We are always looking for new guests on the podcast. I want to highlight you if you have a story of resilience that inspires others. Everyone has a story, and I believe that sharing yours can help others feel less alone. Are you ready to share your journey and inspire others? I want to hear from you. Every story has the power to impact lives and foster a supportive community. If you have a tale of overcoming adversity, personal growth, or a unique perspective on life's challenges, I would love to have you as a guest on the podcast. To become a guest, please email us directly at radiantresiliencepodcast@gmail.com or click the link in the show notes to become a guest. Join us in spreading hope, strength, and inspiration one story at a time. Be brave and share your story so others feel less alone. I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, so there's twofold. So we can do what's called clinical diagnosing, and that's having an appointment with a true expert. Again, not someone, not you're going to learn if you listen to that podcast episode, not just any OBGYN can actually diagnose you, even clinically. They miss it every day, every hour of every day. They are missing this disease, and it's devastating. And so working with someone who truly understands it, and then having a consultation with an excision expert, yes. So the only true way to get that diagnosis is a laparoscopic procedure with an excision expert. And that's the hard part, right? Who's gonna just, and most people have to travel, especially if you live in the Midwest. I always have this cheesy PowerPoint. If you're a patient of mine, you've seen it. I have this picture and diagram we go over, and I'm like, this is the best. No one in the Midwest is trained. They are not resident trained to be the best. You have to leave the Midwest to get to the best. And so we really have to educate patients that, yes, they're probably being told by general surgeon, OBGYN, I'm trained, I can do this. Why would you ever travel? That's crazy. I can do this for you. Red flag. If they are not doing endo all day, every day, and that's all they do, and they've been resident trained in it, and they don't do anything else, red flag to even go to them. So you do not need the diagnoses to have excision. You go and you have that all in one soup, one procedure, one swoop to get diagnosed and treated. And it's by an excision expert. That's a big ask. Now, there is a company called Receptiva. It's a uterine biopsy, and we do use that in our clinic a lot too. To like that patient that might want to know a little bit more, could you maybe have it? It's now being used outside of just the fertility space. So the company originally was just fertility based, and they're now branching off into just women's health in general and like getting some more answers for women who maybe could have endo. And so it's really cool, really quick procedure, not the most comfortable thing, but a good provider like myself will pre-medicate you and make sure to make you as comfortable as possible during that.
Yeah,
And
I had
do
that one
about
done and it was
not fun.
okay. It was
Yeah.
painful, but the guy that did it was quick. So that,
Yeah. Yeah. And I give a little bit of I give some nice meds to hopefully help alleviate that a little bit.
yeah.
But it is an option. It is an option. And patients can go and order that on their own and really puts the patient back in control. I want this test done. Do I have this possibly? And so I would really recommend that too. If there's any hesitancy or getting to surgery is hard, it's not 100% guaranteed. Just because that test isn't positive doesn't mean you don't have it, or you should also consider excision surgery.
Okay.
There's also no age limit on that. So if you're a teen and you want to talk to an excision expert and possibly have surgery, please do it. Don't wait till you're ready to have kids. Don't wait till you're ready for fertility. Yesterday, 10 years. I wish, I tell my young teens all the time, and it usually brings tears to my eyes. I wish I could be you. I wish I'd be 16, 17 sitting here with surgery as an option. I wish that, not freaking 38 years old
Yeah.
going through this. So here I am again, part two of fertility with a new husband, going through it again. And it's devastating. I thought I'd be that magic person too after surgery. It was a hope and it was a wish I had. I was going to have this excision surgery. And once
With
he
the
got
best
in
of
there,
the best.
with the best of the, yeah, best of the best, I'm gonna get pregnant in 6 to 8 weeks. 6 months have went by, 7 months have went by, and not pregnant. And that's my current. I finally had an IVF consultation again, and I knew that though. So my surgeon was so upfront with my husband and myself. So my surgery was scheduled for an hour and 15 minutes. It was over 3 hours long. Once he got in there, it was an atomic bomb had went off in there. And he called my husband in the middle of it. And on the phone call, he starts it off with, "This is bad. This is real bad." And Chance's like heart sinks because he thinks like something's happening to me. I'm like, "Endo, bro, we got to really consider how you start off that conversation." But
Yeah.
he was concerned. And it just goes to show my surgeon, Dr. Adam Duke, is one of the most, he would go to the moon and back to advocate for women too. So having somebody who is like that on your team is so powerful as well. But he was genuinely concerned about me in that procedure and how bad it really was. Stage 4 endo, I had a 3 centimeter nodule, like a ball of endo in my rectum, which was probably causing my rectal pain I was having. It had been there for years, he thought. It was just this huge, and had to go and dig it out essentially. That sounds like wild, but and then adeno. He said it's so bad there. My right ovary is swirled like a twist cone with endo. My right tube, the reason why he called was to ask if he can remove my right tube. We had not talked about that. That was not a conversation. I did make it clear, but I didn't think I was gonna didn't think this. I said I want all my organs. I was like, please don't.
Right.
Just close me up if it's that bad, so I can think about this before you give me a hysterectomy or something, because I want to carry more kids. But he had said my right tube is really bad. And just last week at my IVF consultation, he said an IVF doctor's probably going to want that out before you do that again. And sure, and I was in denial. I was like, no, yep, my right tube should come out. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna do all the things and it's gonna fix it. And I'm gonna get another HSG to make sure it's fine. And the IVF doctor confirmed she wants it out. So I'm in a position again of where I'm looking at another surgery to have that out. And I'm in denial about that at time of recording too. It's my God, there's not like, really? Can we try around with keeping it in? Do we really got to take it out?
That's really interesting because I had an HSG. When was it? It was during all my last year of fertility treatments here. Just to clarify that everything was still clear and everything, I found out with that one that my right tube is blocked as well. And I actually learned that I knew there was something in it because when I did my excision surgery, well, I didn't go to the best of the best, but
yes,
I had
2 or 3
that surgery. He said that the tube had some tissue in it. So I wasn't totally immune to that. Like I knew that there was something there. So then they did my HSG and my right tube is now completely blocked, but they didn't seem concerned because they bypass your
Ooh.
tubes when you're doing IVF. So
Let's talk about it. So it causes inflammation and it can prevent implantation from happening. It is basically like a
really,
toxic toxin in there. Yeah, it's a huge source of inflammation. And so I'm going to take myself out of the patient position and put myself in a provider hat and talk to myself while I'm saying this. You risk failed implantation over and over again when you have that toxic organ
okay.
essentially in you. And it's just a source of angry irritation and issues. And so as much as I want to sit here and be like, ah, fine, let's just try it, I'm risking failed implantation big time by keeping that toxic organ essentially in me. So
Interesting.
trip to Idaho, I should text Endo Bro and get back in the books and get that tube taken
Endo
out.
bro. I
That's
love
what he
that.
calls himself on Instagram, so I think I can call him that. I'm like, yeah, the Endo Bro.
That's so
He is a
funny.
bro. He's a bro. Yeah, he's great advocate for women. But yeah, so I'm gonna pack my bags, head back to Idaho, and get that tube taken
Man,
out.
and
And
I felt like when I volunteered myself for that surgery, afterwards, because I also had a lot of fibroids. That's something that I have struggled
yes,
with. And so he pulled,
yes.
because he was in there, that wasn't necessarily the plan. The plan was just to look for the endo and the adeno. And then he said, while I was in there, he pulled out like 6 fibroids or something. And he
Oh
actually
my
had to remake one of my incisions bigger to pull one of them out.
gosh.
He pulled them all out, so
Yeah.
I was grateful for that. He made that
Yes.
decision in the moment.
Yes.
But I was so mad at myself for volunteering myself for that surgery. The recovery on that was really hard for me. It was
It
so
is.
hard. And I will say that most of it, I feel like, was that stupid gas that they blow you up with, which I get that
Yes.
they have to do that to see everything. But
Yeah.
I don't know. That's probably something if I want to continue down my fertility path that I will have to do at some point just because of all my issues and what I know now. And I don't know if I want to sign myself up for that again.
So good news for you. Again, an excellent surgical center has tricks to pull that out of you before they close you back up. So I hardly had any of that.
Um,
Yeah, reason number 562 to go to a good surgical center and a good surgeon has ways to get rid of that before they. I did not have much of that. Mine was a lot, the pelvic. It was mostly, I was whooped from anesthesia too. I was like, oh
yeah.
my
Well,
gosh, this
especially
is
for that
like,
long.
yeah. And just how, so on the plane back, here's my patient thriving post-op and I'm like dying because it was so extensive and so much went into that. So it's again just I always tell 2 weeks minimum to take off. Please take more off. You can
Mm,
always go back sooner. If you are recovering faster, it's easier to go back sooner to work than it is in my case and most people's cases. Just kidding, I'm not doing well. I'm going to take off longer. There's a lot of guilt that goes along with that decision, or perhaps your employer that you might just not take off when you should be taking off, and that can really disrupt healing too. So it's really important to get into pelvic floor physical therapy post-op too and have a plan in place with a great care team.
So when you have that surgery, how long are you realistically good for? Because presumably that's not the cure for it, right? It still is in
Yeah.
your body. It can come back.
Good question. So, true excision surgery is curative for many. Of
Okay.
course, adenomyosis, no. The only way to air quote cure that is a hysterectomy. And we keep ovaries intact unless there's endo or cancer on them because each lesion creates its own estrogen. So, the old surgeons, the bad surgeons, were ripping ovaries out of women saying that's going to cure endo and adeno. Like, red flag as big as the state. Absolutely not. That is not the case. But no, it is truly curative. What I have seen flare it or bring it air quote back is IVF medications, actually.
Mm,
A lot of my
yeah.
IVF patients have reoccurrence rates that are higher, and they know excision doctors have shared that with me. That does happen. So again, I'm like, oh, great. Just got it taken out. It's going to come back again as I start IVF up again. But super happy with my new provider. She's super open-minded. We're doing peptides and I love peptides. That's one of my favorite conversations too. And she's super advanced and we already have plan our first call right off the bat. We have a plan B in place should we not have a good outcome the first time. So I love a forward thinker. I'm a no crap person. Let's talk about every option possible for me right away so I know the good, bad, and the ugly.
Mm.
And I have a whole care team. Like, I think it's so important for women to have a whole team of people in place. And you, the patient, get to pick who's on that care team. No healthcare provider gets to dictate and navigate based on their personal bias opinions. On a chiropractor doesn't work at naturopath doesn't work. Like, fire them. Red flag. If
Mm.
they don't agree or they're really pushing back on who you want on your healthcare team, that is such a red flag. Mine looks, again, my endometriosis provider, pelvic floor PT. I do acupuncture. I have some energy work, spiritual work people on my team. I had a nutritionist for a while. It really just is all encompassing. And then, of course, my clinic is my care team too. I really created our clinic to be all inclusive for fertility, for endo, for women's health in general. We've grown into many other areas too, but mental health, have some mental health providers, have support groups, really build your team to whatever resource you need. And know that there is none that are off limits, silly, goofy, not allowed. You get to pick. You get to
Yeah.
pick who it is. No one else gets to have a say in that.
Yeah. I love that. So tell me a little bit about all the feels right now where you're
Oh,
at.
it's a loaded question for
I
right now,
know.
ironically.
I know.
So I had my IVF consultation a week ago during legislation session. So legislation for me in North Dakota, it's only every other year, but it's very triggering, like visceral
Mhm.
response because I get very triggered by uneducated people trying to spew their personal bias and opinions out there about this disease. Infertility is the only disease that's not covered by insurance. Infertility is a disease that will impact every single one of those legislators in some way or another. And I pointed that out to them. It's also the only disease where religion gets brought in, and a lot of other weird things get brought into this disease. And so I really pivot my course of action. And this year I brought my son with. He stood at the podium when I testified with me. And I said, you look at him, and he was 6 weeks old. He's turned 7 this month. You look him in the eye when you want to vote no, and you remember his face. You're
Mm.
voting no to him. You're voting no to, you're denying North Dakota families the right to have this, an option. It's not even an option due to finances. People are refinancing their homes, cars, selling the tractor, selling classic cars, really getting divorced. Lord knows what else is going on because of this disease. What
Mm.
other disease is that happening in? It's
Yeah.
like craziness. So it's a really interesting time for me to going back through infertility again.
Yeah.
I'm still in denial. And that's why I
Mm.
like to connect with people all day long. I'm a healthcare provider who treats infertility every day of my life, who's going through it, who is also fighting for it on the insurance financial level, who's also unsure how she's going to come up with $30,000 to go through treatment myself. And so I really can be compassionate for really anyone going through this, but also women who are being gaslit, being medically gaslit in general. Maybe you're not even going through infertility and you don't feel good. You just don't feel good. It's like I get so anger at the healthcare system. So I'm going through denial, grief,
Mm.
sadness, anger, and I did in the last week have a little bit of excitement. After I met with my provider, I was like, wow, like this feels good. I had a talk with one of my energy spiritual advisors, we'll call her, and she's like, you're so angry at IVF, Tara. Like when you think of IVF, I am like angry. I hate it. I hate you. I don't want to go through this again. And
Mm.
she's imagine it's just sitting on the park bench. Envision a park bench. IVF is sitting there. It's just saying hi. It's just literally sitting there like a friend. And you know it's an option. You know it's there if you want it or need it. You know what it looks like. You've been there before. You tell people and patients every day about it. You literally walk people through that journey, and yet you are so angry at it. Why, like, why is that? And I was like, because I made up a story in my head. And the story in my head was, I'm going to be the person who gets pregnant naturally after IVF. I'm going to, that I'm going to have excision surgery. Okay, just kidding. Now I'm going to have excision surgery. And that's going to be the magic. I'm going to be that story. In fact, I did not book my flight or Airbnb or rental car until literally 2 to 4 weeks before I had surgery because I was in such denial that I was going to get pregnant naturally and cancel that
Mm.
surgery. I then put insurance on every single one of those items because surely I was going to get pregnant the week before surgery and not go. And
Mm.
I even know of patients who have been pregnant and still went to that consultation, that traveled to
Yeah.
that consultation because I'm probably going to miscarry on the way there. And then we can just do the surgery
Mm.
anyway. Like I thought when they took the pregnant, even though I knew it was not even in that time frame of my cycle, which my cycle is very consistent. Red flag, if you have 28-day cycles, that does not mean you don't have endo. I thought that P test before surgery was going to test positive and I was going to cancel surgery. That
Mm.
literally went through my head as I was in the surgery center in Post Falls, Idaho. I thought, here it is, we're going to cancel it. We're going to cancel it. So there's a lot of denial, and I literally am the person preaching about these two topics as loud as I possibly can, and I still have my own story of denial through it as well. And so I'm not immune to that. I'm a human,
Yeah.
and I just can keep talking about it. So I can't help but think my story isn't over yet. I'm going back through this. Infertility is part of my life. IVF is part of my life, and I'm going to share every ounce of that journey. And I'm going to be so open about it and just in hopes of doing what I do best is changing healthcare, helping other women and couples and breaking the stigma of this disease down, banging doors down on this and sharing every real piece of this diagnosis that goes into it.
Yeah. All of your feelings are valid. So, I
Oh,
mean,
they're so they change by the hour sometimes.
I know. And also,
Uh,
like, it's so hard when you hear those stories of, like you said, I'm going to be the person that gets pregnant after IVF. I'm going to be like, I've heard all the stories of, I actually even had, I don't know if I ever shared this with you. I had a fertility doctor who told me to go look into adoption because that's
that
what gets
equals
you
it. That's
pregnant,
it. That's what
right?
does it. You start the process even. You should probably pay all the money, start the process, do the home
Yeah,
inspection, and
yeah,
you'll get pregnant.
yeah.
Literally. I know. And I know that's how it works for some people, but I'll be honest right now, and I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but that's never been on my heart. That is not in
Mm.
my personal family building plan. It's and bless those people who it is. And what I tell legislators, adoption is a gift that anybody can give, no matter what your fertility status is. So
Yes.
I ask every legislator, why don't you adopt? Why haven't you adopted? That's a gift that
Mhm.
you can give too. That is not a treatment to infertility. The infertiles of the world should not be responsible for adopting. That is not our job. And that's really heavy when you put that back on somebody that, hey, you have infertility, you should go adopt. I'm sorry, that's not in my life's plan. That doesn't make me a bad person. That's just not my family building plan, nor is it my husband's. And we as a couple have agreed on that.
Yeah.
Bless everybody who adopts. Again, that is a beautiful gift that is out there for anybody to do. So I hate that comment. I truly
Mhm.
do. And I hate when that's being offered as a resource or a tip or trick to get someone pregnant. It's
It's
not the reality.
it's also not an easier solution.
No,
It's not easier, it's not cheaper, it's not
no,
it's really hard. And again, that's a whole other topic for another podcast. But like
it
I've
is.
gotten that a lot more now because I've walked away from IVF and fertility treatment and or specifically IVF, I guess. I've walked
Yep.
away from that. And so I think a lot of people think that I've walked away from it altogether because I haven't gone that path yet. And same thing, I don't know
No,
I haven't
no.
ruled it out completely, but I don't know that's what me and my husband want to do. And that is our prerogative and our choice and
Yes.
no one else's.
Exactly, exactly. And it shouldn't be shoved down our faces just
Yeah.
because we have infertility. It's
Yeah.
just
But it's
unacceptable.
amazing going back. Like, it's just amazing. I am so glad that there are those stories out there of people
Yes,
getting
yes,
miraculously pregnant after
yes.
trying IVF, not having success, whatever. Like, I'm grateful that those people had those solutions, but I think we also need to be very realistic. That's not everybody. And
Yep.
I think that is the hope that keeps you addicted to this stuff.
Ooh, addiction. I have not thought about that. That is, yeah.
Because
Yes. Yes.
Because of that tiny little glimmer of hope of I'm going to do this and then I'm going to get pregnant. This is going to be like,
Yes.
I had that mentality with my last IVF round of this is the last one I know I'm going to do. This is the last embryo I
Yep.
have. This is going to be the one because that's the story you hear all the time.
Yeah.
And then, you go, okay, next time they're going to change this. We're going to do that. That's going to be my time.
Yes.
And I think it
Yes.
can be an addicting process.
For sure. I
So,
agree 100%. And like you think, I'm just going to jump and try this. I'm going to jump and do this. I'm going to add this, or I haven't done that yet. And then all of that comes with expense too. It's like,
yeah.
none of this is covered. Like,
Yeah.
none of it is covered.
Yeah.
None of it.
I'm going to start to wrap us up here because I know we're running low on time, but thank you for sharing your story and your
Yes,
journey.
you're
And thank
welcome.
you for everything you're doing in this world to help women, to help infertility, with the legislation, with yourself. All the things that you're sharing is so incredible. And I love watching your stories and everything I follow. If you haven't followed Tara on social
We're
media,
about to get more real here, everybody.
yeah, I love it. It's so necessary and it makes people feel so alone. And I think that also we look at doctors and think that a lot of the times this is true, they don't have a clue. So it's really nice to see somebody in the medical industry that does get it more. I wish you weren't going through all of what you're going through, obviously, but it is nice to the rest of us to have some camaraderie in
Yeah.
that. So
Oh,
thank you for
you're
everything.
welcome. You're welcome.
What parting words do you have for my audience?
I always tell my patients, your body best. Us medical providers are not with you. You are with your body 24/7. You know what's best for it. You know what is best for your health overall. I always tell patients, men or women, if you don't feel good or you have concerning symptoms and you're told, air quoting, that all your labs are normal, everything's normal, they're not. Grow your team, find somebody who will listen. That from infertility to cancer, I've seen it all. I've seen women and men too, but women just get dismissed over and over again. And the gaslighting needs to end. Do not put up with the gaslighting anymore. You know what is best for you. Just always follow that. Never think that it is silly, goofy, or not true and real if you are experiencing something. And seek multiple opinions before deciding. Like, you hire healthcare providers, you can fire us. If we're not a good fit for you or you outgrow that provider, they might be super nice, great, amazing, and wonderful, but they might not serve you anymore for that phase or the next steps in your journey, whatever that might be, fertility or otherwise. So really grow your team, know you're in control of your healthcare team, and only you get to say who's on it.
I love that. And where can everyone find you?
Yeah, so I am at drtaraharding.com. I've changed all my handles to Dr. Tara Harding, from Tara B Fertility to Dr. Tara Harding. There's been a rebrand, and you can always message me. I'm here for you through your journey too. I'll be sharing all of my part 2 of fertility journey and more, as I'm very open about that, and I will continue to be open about that. I'll document on my podcast as well. So yeah, follow along, and I'm here as a resource.
Yeah, and we'll put a lot of that in the show notes too. So if anybody's looking for, make that a little bit easier. So thank you so
Yeah.
much, Tara, for this. This
Thank
has been amazing.
you.
I know it was hard to match our schedules, but maybe in the
It worked.
future we can have you on
Yes.
again for a new update on
100%.
where you are. So
100%. Let's do it.
yeah, thanks so much for coming on. And thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you enjoyed our conversation and found value in the stories shared, please consider following us on your preferred podcast platform. Your ratings and reviews make a huge difference. They help us reach more listeners and continue bringing you engaging, insightful content. We appreciate your support and would love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Until next time, keep listening, growing, and sharing.